Okay, week 12 of lockdown begins. And we've done it, Auckland. We hit 200 cases per day. So this is a new or high or low, depending on which way you think about it. But the COVID New Zealand summer tour has truly kicked off, and it's making its way so far pretty slow and steady down the North Island. And you can see the waves of rippling anxiety spreading down the country. But COVID looks like it's heading to a town near you. Today, we're going to see if the Auckland border becomes a lot more leaky, which I think it will be. And so, the brave new frontier, which has just basically been an Auckland story, is now going to be played out across the country. How will that go? Well, I don't know if we want a lot of COVID in a place like Taupo, because negative pressure rooms that Taupo ED and Taupo Hospital have wouldn't be high, but there's a huge amount of small towns and cities in a similar boat. In Auckland, well, yeah, the number of people in hospital remains pretty high, but this is the way it'll be now, because any time there's a lower number, then there'll be more relaxation. So despite previously saying there's going to be two kind of worlds now, there's going to be the vaccinated New Zealand world and the unvaccinated world. The PM's had to backpedal because I think that segregation ideal has not worked well in the past in history. Even the fact using the word segregation is probably a little bit of a low-key trigger. So how this is messaged will be important. I personally feel a bit worried about people who are unvaccinated, that what is that going to look like? How are they going to feel? How are their kids going to feel? Those around them are going to feel? But it doesn't matter. So good news in some ways for Auckland, going to level 3.2, or otherwise known as, what level are we in? It's hard to learn this system, and we keep getting told that don't worry, because the system we're in doesn't work anyway for what we're expecting. So we're going to go to the traffic light system. Now the traffic light system, we have laminated it and put it on our fridge, but that is also a little bit difficult to figure out what is what, and how will some areas be in a different traffic light. Who knows, but it was always going to go this way, maybe. And so other things today, huge news that Auckland schools are opening, kind of. There's schools having to make part-time arrangements, but you can go to school full-time, which I think is awesome. And the negative effects of not going to school are huge and underestimated, and we'll see a wave of problems if kids don't get into school. And for some, I mean, this is actually only 5 weeks to the end of the year, so if they don't go then, it's already 3 months, then you've got another couple of months, then going back into school. That could be like the first day of school on steroids, and then maybe a few tears and other things come out of that. So I think it's good that kids go back to school. We've seen the stories overseas. Certainly the child-to-child transfer seems to be a worry that does not being brought out by the evidence, but fair enough that we can expect some parents won't be sending their kids to school, but we really have to consider that decision of pros and cons, because there's certainly a lot of cons. So the government announced another big IT announcement. They've changed the website address for the My COVID passport, and it's pretty hard to find on the ministry website. You click a lot of links which go around in a circle talking about the passport, but don't actually get you to the link. After many circular clicks, I got there, and of course, soon as you log in, site overloaded. So I guess nothing to panic, folks. We've got plenty of time, but if you were lacking in confidence on the government on delivering a big IT project, this probably might not make you feel so good about their ability to execute on this. But anyway, they've got time to figure it out, and the PM seemed to be really enjoying telling the story of how her parents logged in But yeah, I mean, it's great. They're in the privileged group who got to do it first, but the rest of us, yeah, you can't log in at the moment. And I tried at 7 in the morning, so presumably that's only going to get worse today, where people want the passport. It's still, there's going to be a whole lot of edge cases which are really confusing, like how do you prove your ID, how to prove you are, how to prove you're vaccinated, what if you just turned 12, what if you're about to turn 12. It's all in the mix. Things have gone really quiet on the antiviral front, which is a shame, because I think the antivirals could really be another good factor, that if we were front and center in an effective treatment, we could minimize the effects of vaccinated, unvaccinated pulling apart our society. For example, if you're unvaccinated in Waikato right now, you can go, in Hamilton, you could go to shop, you can do all sorts of things. Now, when we switch to the framework, you can't do a lot of things at all. So it seems like now, do you do your Christmas shopping now if you're unvaccinated? Yeah, I'd say so. But we keep smashing the vaccination milestones, not targets, milestones, which is good to see. And so ADHB way above 95%, I think way above 95% first dose. And the other DHBs are catching up. Well, they're not catching up, they're all moving about the same rate, but we're all reaching the milestones, which is really neat. So this week, there hasn't been so many deaths at home, which is good, because I think that did colour the whole narrative last week. But I think we will eventually move to an area where this is expected. But the high vaccination rates, I think, allow us to put a mind frame where we feel like we've done our best. We're not total sitting ducks here. And so we march on, and this week should be interesting to see what happens with the Auckland border. I don't think they can keep policing it one by one. And yeah, so COVID's going to come to a town near you, it seems. If you're in the South Island, it seems like you still got a few weeks away. It seems to be moving from one small town to another, but it is down to Masterton, so yeah. So you know, it just has to take a short trip from Wellington, and then it's in the South Island. So yeah, we'll see what happens with travel as well, because I guess once we're allowing that to happen, that might free up travel, and that might bring new challenges. So they've reduced the MIQ stay down now to a week, which I think is great for people's mental well-being who are in MIQ. And I guess we're slowly edging up to the time where MIQ is not used for returnee so much, but it is a holding pen for people who might need a holding pen. So we'll see. Quick update, but yeah, interesting to see the border announcement this week. There was another thing which has been a bit of a political or health hot potato about boosters, and after health demanding we need boosters, and not getting much response, it's decided there will be boosters for all. So boosters for all is going to happen soon, and I think there's a little bit of conflicting evidence about boosters. It seems it depends which country, and I'm not sure why there's so much variation, but some countries purport that in their studies boosters seem to be highly effective, but most of these studies are measuring a lab marker, an antibody level, but the immune system is probably a little bit more complicated than that. And I think the main factor is the amount of wild type virus around. So if there's a lot of wild type virus around, you're kind of getting a little bit of exposure, which will probably boost your immunity. And certainly this has happened with chickenpox and other things, where the wild type, a bit of disease around actually helps a lot of people keep their immunity up. And we've just seen this with RSV. When you withdraw and you go into a sterile situation, then when you get exposed, you don't do so well. So in the UK, they're reporting records amounts of really bad head colds, and they've certainly had a lot of lockdowns. So it might be interesting. I mean, we haven't had really much COVID here at all, So the booster thing might be quite compelling here. Of course, we won't really have the thinking or the ability to really test this. We just really get one shot at this. We can't do a whole lot of big studies measuring antibody levels, and so we're going to rely on overseas areas which are probably pretty dissimilar to our own. So that's where we're at the moment. And so I think it's they've released the boosters. Still huge amount of work with the ethnic disparities in the vaccination rates, but I'm not sure if the government is actually best placed or well equipped to solve the issues that remain there. And the more they can hand this off to people who are in a better position, probably the better. Seems like there's a genuine lack of trust on both parties. A lot of Maori distrust health, and it seems health distrusts Maori, and they've been fighting it out with data at the moment. But I think it's probably just a flare-up of a wider issue of mistrust, and yeah, so no silver bullets on that one, but it is quite interesting. If you look at the Maori vaccination rate, it is climbing. It's just climbing at a rate that makes it a stark contrast to the rest of New Zealand, which is not good with the equity lens. But there's a lot more Maori vaccinated than last week, which is great. And if you look at Maori vaccination compared to lots of parts of the world, that is great, but it doesn't really uphold the treaty values. But saying that again, I mean, I just saw a report that 90% of Africa doesn't have access to any form of COVID vaccine. So yeah, but they're not a focus of the founding document of this country. But yeah, it's a bit of a head screw thinking about what's fair and what's not fair. But I certainly think for a health workforce, you don't want a lot of people sick, and you don't want a lot of people exiting the whole system because of COVID. And the impact of long COVID is probably lessened from boosters and just having a less severe illness. So we do need to protect people in the health workforce as well. So yeah, difficult one. Anyway, as long as the numbers keep going up of vaccination, I guess we don't have to know the chaotic nature of why systems or how systems work. We just have to know when they're not working, and they're not working for Maori on an equity terms. You'd have to say at the moment, but the absolute numbers are going up, which is good. The weather in Auckland is playing havoc. It is sideways rain, then brilliantly sunny, just like usual. And so I don't know how the teachers are going to feel about opening the classroom windows all the time. Might be a bit noisy and a bit rainy, but we've got a window at least in summer to get these kids back in school before we have the next headache of winter. Anyway, we'll wait for the announcement at 4.